The first shadows fell across Tokyo at precisely 0317 hours Global Standard Time. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the holographic displays with a mixture of scientific curiosity and growing dread. The massive alien vessels hung motionless in the sky, their obsidian surfaces absorbing and reflecting light in ways that defied human understanding of physics. Global communication networks erupted into a chaotic symphony of panic and confusion. Satellite imagery confirmed what seemed impossible. Multiple spacecraft of unprecedented size and design had positioned themselves above major cities across the planet. Sydney, New York, London, Moscow, Beijing, no significant population center, was left untouched by the alien presence. In the United Nations Emergency Command Center, a diverse group of international experts gathered. Military strategists, scientific advisors, diplomats, and communication specialists worked in a tense, unified formation. The room buzzed with a nervous energy that balanced on the knife's edge between terror and anticipation. "They're not attempting communication," said General Maria Santos, her fingers tracing the holographic map of global ship positions. "This isn't a diplomatic mission. This is a tactical deployment." The alien vessels were nothing like humanity's speculative fiction had imagined. They were not sleek and elegant, nor were they monstrous and threatening in a conventional sense. Instead, they possessed a geometric perfection that spoke of calculations beyond human comprehension. Each ship appeared to be a living mathematical equation, its surfaces shifting and realigning with microscopic precision. Dr. Rodriguez zoomed in on the closest projection. "Look at the molecular structure," she muttered to her colleague, Dr. James Chen. "These aren't just spacecraft. They're more like organic computing systems. The entire vessel seems to be one integrated mechanism." Chen nodded, his fingers flying across multiple translational interfaces. "The energy signatures are completely unlike anything in our database. We're detecting quantum entanglement signatures that suggest technologies centuries beyond our current understanding." Suddenly, every communication channel simultaneously erupted with a single transmission. The voice, if it could be called a voice, was a complex harmonic that seemed to bypass traditional audio reception. It resonated directly in the neural pathways of every human who heard it, a linguistic technology that was both terrifying and fascinating. "Inhabitants of planetary designation, Earth 427, the transmission began. Your global civilization has been evaluated. Your technological and social development requires immediate intervention. Submission is the most logical path to preservation." The message was both a declaration of intent and a cold assessment of humanity's perceived position in the galactic hierarchy. No room for negotiation, no space for individual human agency, just a clinical determination of their fate. In military command centers around the world, initial response protocols were activated. Decades of Cold War preparation, global defense coordination, and advanced technological development now faced their ultimate test. Nuclear deterrents were placed on high alert. Sophisticated defense networks began scanning and analyzing the alien technologies. But something else was happening. Something the alien collective could not have anticipated. Instead of fracturing under pressure, human civilization began to coalesce. National boundaries seemed to dissolve in the face of this unprecedented threat. Research centers that had been competing now shared real-time data. Military branches from different countries began coordinating with unprecedented efficiency. Dr. Rodriguez noticed this first. The global response was not just a defensive mechanism. It was an adaptive, intelligent system emerging from the collective human experience. Centuries of conflict, innovation, and survival had prepared humanity for precisely this moment. In Beijing, a team of quantum physicists began developing computational models to understand the alien communication frequency. In Silicon Valley, software engineers started designing adaptive network infiltration algorithms. In Mumbai, biotechnology researchers examined potential viral countermeasures that could disrupt the alien ship's complex biological technological infrastructure. The Zarkin Collective had made a fundamental miscalculation. They saw humanity as a collection of individual fragmented societies. They did not understand that human potential emerged most powerfully when faced with an existential challenge. As the first day of this unexpected encounter concluded, one thing became crystal clear. This would not be a simple invasion. This would be a complex, multi-layered conflict that would test the very definition of intelligence, adaptability, and survival. The game had changed, and humanity was just beginning to reveal its true nature. The first 48 hours after the alien arrival transformed human civilization in ways no one could have predicted. What began as a potential global catastrophe became a crucible of unprecedented cooperation and innovation. In Geneva, the United Nations Emergency Council convened an extraordinary session. Representatives from every member state gathered not with their typical bureaucratic hesitation, but with a unified sense of purpose. The massive holographic displays showed real-time data streams from research centers, military installations, and communication networks across the globe. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of the command hub, her fingers dancing across multiple interface screens. Beside her, a diverse team of experts from disciplines that had never before collaborated so closely worked with an intensity that bordered on collective meditation. Quantum physicists sat next to cybersecurity experts. Linguists worked alongside aerospace engineers. Biologists collaborated with computer scientists in a symphony of human potential. "We're not just defending," Rodriguez explained to the assembled global leaders. "We're developing a comprehensive adaptive response system." The aliens approached us as if we were a static civilization. They don't understand our capacity for rapid evolution. The global research initiative, dubbed Project Chrysalis, began to take shape. Every major research institution worldwide redirected its resources. Universities suspended normal operations. Private technology companies set aside competitive interests. Governments released classified research that had been hidden for decades. In the United States, a decommissioned particle accelerator facility in New Mexico was rapidly converted into a cutting-edge research center. Scientists worked in shifts that seemed to defy human endurance, fueled by a combination of advanced stimulants, neural optimization techniques, and an almost spiritual commitment to the species' survival. Dr. James Chen, leading a team of quantum computing experts in Silicon Valley, made a breakthrough that would become a turning point. By analyzing the minimal communication data from the alien transmission, his team developed a quantum decryption algorithm that could potentially understand the fundamental communication structure of the Zarken collective. "It's not just about breaking their code," Chen explained during a global broadcast. "It's about understanding their entire cognitive framework. Every communication is a window into their thought processes, their weaknesses, their potential vulnerabilities." Meanwhile, military strategists around the world began reimagining defense protocols. The traditional concept of national defense had become obsolete. Global communication networks allowed for real-time strategy coordination that made previous military doctrines look like ancient history. In a converted underground facility beneath the Ural Mountains, a multinational team of defense experts developed a revolutionary approach to potential conflict. They weren't planning a traditional military response. Instead, they were designing an adaptive defense network that could learn, modify, and respond to alien technologies in real time. The most remarkable transformation happened at the societal level. Economic systems that had seemed immutable just days before now reorganized with incredible speed. Manufacturing capabilities were redirected. Supply chains were restructured. Every human resource was being optimized for a potential global defense. Educational institutions launched emergency programs. Students became active participants in the global response. Engineering programs developed accelerated courses in quantum mechanics and xenotechnology. Medical schools created rapid response training for potential biological challenges. Even elementary schools incorporated lessons about global unity and adaptive thinking. Space agencies from multiple countries, which had previously competed, now shared every piece of data and technology. The International Space Station became a critical observation point, its equipment modified to scan and analyze the alien vessels with unprecedented detail. Communication technologies underwent a rapid evolution. Researchers developed new encryption methods, communication protocols, and interference technologies that could potentially disrupt alien communication systems. What had once been theoretical research now became immediate, practical application. The global energy grid was redesigned to be more resilient. Distributed energy systems, renewable technologies, and backup power networks were integrated in ways that would have taken decades under normal circumstances. Every potential weakness was being addressed with a speed and efficiency that would have seemed impossible just weeks earlier. Dr. Rodriguez looked at the global response map and saw something extraordinary. Humanity was not just responding to a threat, they were transforming. The alien arrival had become a catalyst for a species-wide evolutionary leap. They thought we were fragmented, she said quietly to her colleagues. They didn't understand that our greatest strength is our ability to unite when truly challenged. As the second day of the alien encounter concluded, one thing became abundantly clear. The Zarkan Collective had awakened something profound in human civilization. This was no longer just a potential conflict. This was a moment of species-wide transformation. Humanity was preparing, and the universe was about to witness something unprecedented. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Sophia Nakamura, a cultural anthropologist with a background in xenolinguistics, sat in a converted conference room surrounded by a wall of holographic displays. Her team represented a unique intersection of disciplines: linguists, psychologists, communication experts, and behavioral analysts from nearly every corner of the globe. We're not going to understand the Zarkan by analyzing their technology, she explained to her multinational team. We need to understand their fundamental communication paradigms, their social structures, their decision-making processes. The Global Research Initiative had discovered something profound. The alien collective wasn't just a technological civilization, it was a complex social organism with its own intricate psychological framework. Traditional military strategies would be useless. What humanity needed was a comprehensive approach that went far beyond conventional warfare. Dr. Nakamura's team began dissecting the minimal communication data from the initial alien transmission. They didn't just look at the words or frequencies. They analyzed pause lengths, harmonic variations, computational patterns embedded within the message. Each fragment became a window into the alien psychology. In São Paulo, a team of neural network specialists worked alongside linguists to develop a revolutionary translation matrix. They weren't just trying to translate language, they were attempting to map the entire cognitive structure of an alien civilization. It was like trying to understand an entire universe through a single, complex mathematical equation. Meanwhile, global communication networks began a subtle, sophisticated counterintelligence operation. Instead of direct confrontation, humanity would wage a war of information, psychological complexity, and strategic misdirection. Government communication centers around the world coordinated an unprecedented information campaign. They began broadcasting carefully constructed messages designed not to communicate, but to probe the alien collective's response mechanisms. Each transmission was a complex psychological experiment, testing the limits of alien comprehension. Dr. Carlos Rodriguez, a behavioral psychologist from Mexico City, led a team developing what they called cognitive interference protocols. These were not traditional communication strategies. They were intricate psychological constructs designed to introduce complexity, uncertainty, and cognitive dissonance into the alien collective's decision-making processes. We're not trying to defeat them with force, Rodriguez explained during a secured global briefing. We're going to challenge their fundamental understanding of intelligence, communication, and strategic thinking. Universities worldwide redirected research funding toward understanding complex adaptive systems. Departments of mathematics, computer, science, linguistics, and psychology began collaborating in ways that defied traditional academic boundaries. They were mapping potential communication strategies that could introduce uncertainty into the alien collective's perception of humanity. The most brilliant minds realized that humanity's greatest strength was its capacity for unpredictability. Where the Zarkan saw a linear, predictable civilization, humans could introduce radical complexity. In Tokyo, a team of game theory experts began developing sophisticated simulation models. They created thousands of potential scenarios, each more complex and nuanced than traditional military strategies. These were not just war games. They were intricate psychological experiments designed to explore the boundaries of alien comprehension. Quantum computing centers around the world worked on developing communication algorithms that could introduce deliberate inconsistencies. The goal was not to communicate clearly, but to create a communication matrix so complex that it would challenge the alien collective's fundamental understanding of intelligent interaction. Cultural research teams began compiling a comprehensive database of human creativity, artistic expression, and innovative thinking. They recognized that humanity's most powerful weapon was its capacity for unexpected solutions, for finding beauty and meaning in complexity. Dr. Nakamura's team made a breakthrough that would change everything. They discovered that the alien collective's communication structure was fundamentally hierarchical and linear. Human communication, in contrast, was a complex, multidimensional network that could adapt, shift, and transform with incredible speed. They see us as a problem to be solved, she told her colleagues. We're going to show them that we're a mystery to be understood. As the third day of the alien encounter concluded, humanity was no longer just preparing for a potential conflict. They were developing a comprehensive strategy that went beyond traditional concepts of defense or attack. This was a civilization preparing to challenge the very definition of intelligence, communication, and strategic thinking. The Zarkan Collective had awakened something extraordinary, and humanity was just beginning to reveal the depth of its potential. The research facility nestled deep within the Rocky Mountains hummed with an energy that defied conventional scientific understanding. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a holographic display that seemed to breathe with living information, her eyes reflecting the complex quantum algorithms dancing across its surface. This was not just another research center. It was the culmination of humanity's most advanced technological dreams, a collaborative hub where the boundaries between disciplines had completely dissolved. Physicists worked alongside biologists. Computer scientists collaborated with neural network experts. Materials engineers shared insights with quantum computing specialists. Dr. James Chen approached, carrying a data crystal that contained what might be the most significant technological breakthrough in human history. "We've done it," he said, his voice a mixture of exhaustion and profound excitement. The adaptive neural network is operational. The system they had developed was unlike any previous technological construct. Traditional computing relied on binary logic, ones and zeros. This new system was fundamentally different. It was a living, learning mechanism that could adapt, modify, and evolve in real time, drawing inspiration from the most complex system humanity knew, the human brain. Each component of the system was designed to learn, not just process. Quantum. Processors integrated with bioorganic neural networks created a computational matrix that could anticipate, modify, and respond to challenges with an almost intuitive intelligence. Where traditional artificial intelligence had limitations, this system represented something entirely new, a hybrid intelligence that blurred the lines between technological and biological cognition. In a secured laboratory beneath the facility, prototype devices demonstrated capabilities that would have seemed like science fiction mere weeks ago. Nanoscale robots could now reconfigure themselves in milliseconds, adapting to new environmental challenges with a complexity that mimicked biological evolution. Materials could change their molecular structure on demand, responding to external stimuli in ways that defied previous understanding of physics. Dr. Rodriguez walked through a testing chamber where a new generation of adaptive technologies was being developed. Walls could become transparent or solid, change color, or generate energy based on environmental needs. Surfaces could heal themselves, absorb or reflect different types of radiation, and communicate complex information through subtle molecular changes. The Global Research Initiative had unlocked something profound. This wasn't just about developing New technologies. It was about reimagining the fundamental relationship between human intelligence and technological potential. Communication networks were being redesigned from the ground up. The new systems could predict potential interference, reroute information through multiple dimensional pathways, and adapt to communication challenges in real time. Traditional concepts of encryption became obsolete. These were living communication systems that could evolve faster than any potential threat could compromise them. Energy research took a revolutionary turn. Scientists developed power generation, systems that could draw energy from multiple sources simultaneously, adapting to environmental conditions with unprecedented efficiency. A solar panel could now transform its molecular structure to maximize energy absorption, or switch to alternative energy collection methods in milliseconds. Medical research teams developed nanoscale medical technologies that could diagnose and treat conditions at the cellular level. These were not just diagnostic tools, they were adaptive healing systems that could learn and respond to individual biological challenges. The most remarkable breakthrough came in the field of computational thinking. The new neural networks could process information in ways that went beyond traditional computational models. They could recognize patterns, generate creative solutions, and learn from complex, multidimensional datasets in ways that seem to approach genuine creativity. We're not just building a technology, Dr. Chen explained during a secured global briefing. We're creating a new form of intelligence that can learn, adapt, and grow in ways we're only beginning to understand. The alien collective had miscalculated. They saw humanity as a static civilization with predictable technological limitations. Instead, they had awakened a species capable of reimagining the very nature of intelligence and technological potential. As the fourth day of the alien encounter concluded, humanity stood on the precipice of a technological revolution. The adaptive systems they had developed were not just a defense mechanism. They were a fundamental reimagining of what intelligence could be. The universe was about to witness something unprecedented. Humanity was preparing to show that true intelligence was not about fixed capabilities, but about the capacity to learn, adapt, and transform. Deep in the archives of the United Nations diplomatic archives, a remarkable discovery was about to change the course of the impending conflict. Dr. Maria Santos, a veteran diplomatic historian, carefully unfolded a series of classified documents that had been hidden for decades. These were not just papers. They were the key to understanding the complex web of oppressed civilizations that existed beneath the Zarkan Collective's seemingly impenetrable control. The holographic display in her research center began to populate, with intricate network maps. Each connection represented a civilization that had been subjugated, controlled, or marginalized by the Zarkan. What appeared to be a monolithic alien alliance was actually a delicate ecosystem of suppressed potential. In a secured communication center in Brussels, a team of linguistic and communication experts worked tirelessly to establish contact with these marginalized civilizations. They weren't using traditional communication methods. Instead, they developed a complex communication matrix that could bypass conventional communication barriers using quantum entanglement principles and advanced pattern recognition algorithms. The first response came from an unexpected source. A species known in Zarkan records as the Ninth Peripheral Cluster had been reduced to little more than a technological support system for the larger collective. Their communication was initially fractured, filled with fear and decades of systematic oppression. Dr. Elena Rodriguez led the communication team that made the breakthrough. "We're not offering liberation," she explained to her colleagues. "We're offering a partnership, a chance to redefine their own existence." The diplomatic approach was multi-layered and complex. Humanity didn't present itself as a savior or a conquering force. Instead, they offered a fundamentally different model of civilization, one based on collaborative potential, individual agency, and collective growth. Research teams began compiling comprehensive databases of the subjugated civilizations. Each entry was more than just a technical report. It was a story of potential, of cultures that had been systematically prevented from achieving their true capabilities. In Tokyo, a multinational team of xenosociologists developed advanced communication protocols that could bridge the psychological gaps between vastly different civilizations. They weren't just translating languages, they were creating a framework for mutual understanding that transcended traditional communication barriers. The Zarken Collective's control mechanism became increasingly clear. It wasn't just a military hierarchy. It was a complex system of psychological and technological suppression. Each subjugated civilization had been carefully prevented from developing technologies or social structures that could challenge the collective's dominance. Diplomatic teams worked around the clock, developing communication strategies that could reach out to these oppressed civilizations. They shared detailed information about human technological breakthroughs, but more importantly, they shared stories of human resilience, creativity, and potential. A breakthrough came when they established stable communication with 3 distinct civilization clusters. These were not just potential allies. They were entire species that had been waiting for an opportunity to reclaim their own potential. The communication was delicate and complex. Each transmission was a carefully constructed message that demonstrated humanity's commitment to collaborative potential rather than domination. They shared scientific discoveries, cultural insights, and a fundamental philosophy of mutual growth. Dr. Santos discovered something profound in the archived documents. The Zarken Collective's strength was also its greatest weakness. By systematically suppressing the potential of other civilizations, they had created a complex network of potential resistance that could be activated with the right approach. This isn't about military conquest, she explained during a secured global briefing. This is about awakening the collective potential of civilizations that have been systematically prevented from achieving their true capabilities. The diplomatic initiative began to yield remarkable results. Small communication networks began to form between these previously isolated civilizations. They started sharing technological insights, cultural information, and a growing sense of collective potential. As the 5th day of the alien encounter concluded, humanity had accomplished something extraordinary. They weren't just preparing for a potential conflict. They were creating a complex, multi-layered network of potential allies who saw in humans a chance for something entirely new. The Zarken Collective had believed they were dealing with a single, isolated civilization. Instead, they had awakened a complex, adaptive network that was about to fundamentally challenge everything they understood about collective potential. The universe was about to witness a transformation unlike anything in galactic history. The moment of transformation began in the cold vacuum of deep space, far from any planetary system. A massive quantum communication array, developed through the collaborative efforts of human researchers and their newly allied civilizations, initiated a sequence that would forever change the course of galactic conflict. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched from the Global Command Center, her hands steady on the holographic interface. The team around her represented an unprecedented coalition, human experts working alongside representatives from 3 previously subjugated alien civilizations. Each brought unique perspectives, technologies, and insights that had been carefully woven into a comprehensive strategic approach. The quantum cascade, as it would later be called, was not a traditional military strike. It was a multi-dimensional assault on the very fabric of the Zarken Collective's technological and social infrastructure. Months of careful preparation had led to this moment, a coordinated effort that targeted not just physical systems, but the complex neural networks that governed the alien civilization. Quantum entanglement communication systems began to activate across multiple star systems. These were not simple transmission devices. They were adaptive, living networks that could modify their own communication protocols in real time. Each node was both a receiver and a generator of complex information patterns. The first layer of the assault targeted the Zarken's communication infrastructure. Adaptive algorithms developed by the combined research teams began to introduce subtle inconsistencies into the alien collective's information networks. These were not simple disruptions, but complex mathematical patterns designed to create cognitive dissonance within their unified system. In orbital platforms and deep space communication hubs, the Zarken's seemingly impenetrable network began to show first signs of instability. Communication pathways that had existed for generations started to fragment, redirect, and ultimately break down. Dr. James Chen, monitoring the quantum communication arrays, watched in a mixture of scientific fascination and strategic concentration. "We're not destroying their systems," he explained to his colleagues. "We're revealing the fundamental weaknesses in their unified consciousness." The assault was multi-layered. While the communication networks were being systematically destabilized, another team worked on introducing complex mathematical algorithms that challenged the very foundation of the Zarkan's decision-making processes. These were not simple computer viruses, but sophisticated cognitive interference patterns that introduced unprecedented levels of uncertainty. In the research facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, prototype adaptive systems began to demonstrate capabilities that went far beyond traditional computational thinking. They could predict, modify, and respond to alien technological defenses with a speed and complexity that defied previous understanding of artificial intelligence. The allied civilizations played a crucial role. Each brought unique technological insights that complemented human capabilities. A species from the 9th Peripheral Cluster provided advanced quantum encryption techniques. Another civilization contributed breakthrough molecular disruption technologies that could interfere with the Zarkan's ship-wide communication systems. As the quantum cascade progressed, something extraordinary began to happen. The Zarkan collective's unified consciousness, which had been their greatest strength, became their most significant vulnerability. The carefully maintained hierarchical structure began to show fractures, with different subsections of their civilization responding in increasingly divergent ways. Communication intercepts revealed the growing confusion. The alien collective, which had always viewed itself as a perfectly unified intelligence, was experiencing something unprecedented, genuine uncertainty. Decision-making pathways became increasingly erratic, with different segments of their civilization producing contradictory response protocols. Dr. Maria Santos monitored the psychological impact of the assault. "We're not just disrupting their technology," she explained during a secured briefing. "We're challenging their fundamental understanding of collective intelligence." The turning point came not as a massive explosion or a traditional military victory, but as a gradual disintegration of the Zarkan collective's unified consciousness. Their strength, a perfectly coordinated hierarchical intelligence, became their greatest weakness when faced with a fundamentally different approach to communication and strategic thinking. As the 6th day of the encounter concluded, the Zarkan collective found itself in a position it had never anticipated. Their seemingly invincible technological and social infrastructure was being systematically dismantled not through force, but through a complex, adaptive approach that challenged the very nature of their existence. Humanity and its new allies had accomplished something unprecedented. They had shown that true intelligence was not about absolute control, but about adaptability, creativity, and the capacity to reimagine fundamental possibilities. The universe was about to witness a transformation, unlike anything in galactic history. The space between star systems became a canvas of unprecedented complexity. What had begun as a potential invasion had transformed into a multi-dimensional conflict that defied all previous understanding of warfare, strategy, and interstellar communication. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched from the Global Command Center as the final stage of the confrontation unfolded. The holographic displays showed not a traditional battle, but an intricate dance of technological and psychological warfare that stretched across multiple star systems. The Allied fleet was unlike any military formation in galactic history. Human ships worked in perfect synchronization with vessels from 3 previously subjugated civilizations. Each ship was more than a weapon. It was a living, adaptive system that could modify its capabilities in milliseconds. General Maria Santos coordinated the strategic approach. "This isn't about destruction," she explained to her multinational command team. "This is about fundamentally reshaping the potential of galactic interaction." The Zarkan collective's main fleet converged in what they believed would be a decisive engagement. Their ships were massive technological marvels, each vessel a complex ecosystem of integrated systems. They approached with the confidence of a civilization that had never known true defeat. They were about to learn otherwise. The first wave of the confrontation was almost invisible. Quantum communication networks began to introduce complex interference patterns that disrupted the Zarkan ship's fundamental communication infrastructure. Where they expected unified command, they found increasing fragmentation. Dr. James Chen monitored the quantum interference systems. Each transmission was a carefully constructed mathematical algorithm designed to introduce maximum uncertainty into the alien collective's decision-making processes. It was less a weapon and more a complex philosophical challenge to their entire understanding of collective intelligence. Human and allied ships moved with a fluidity that seemed to defy traditional physics. They were not just vessels, but adaptive systems that could reconfigure themselves in real time. Defensive shields could become offensive capabilities in milliseconds. Propulsion systems could transform into communication arrays with a simple computational command. The battle unfolded across multiple dimensions. Physical space was just one layer of the conflict. Quantum communication networks created interference, patterns that challenged the Zarkan's fundamental understanding of information transfer. Psychological warfare algorithms introduced complex uncertainty into their collective consciousness. Breakthrough technologies developed in the mountain research facilities now demonstrated their full potential. Nanoscale adaptive systems could reconfigure entire ship structures in milliseconds. Materials could change their molecular composition to absorb, reflect, or redirect energy in ways that seemed to violate known physical laws. The Allied civilizations played crucial roles. A species from the 9th Peripheral Cluster provided advanced quantum encryption techniques that allowed for communication networks immune to alien interception. Another civilization contributed molecular disruption technologies that could systematically break down the Zarkan ship's complex integrated systems. What made the human approach truly revolutionary was its fundamental philosophy. This was not a conflict about conquest or destruction. It was a complex demonstration of an entirely different approach to intelligence, communication, and collective potential. The Zarkan collective found itself facing something it could not comprehend. Its unified consciousness, once its greatest strength, had become its most significant vulnerability. The carefully maintained hierarchical structure began to fragment, with different subsections responding in increasingly divergent ways. The confrontation reached its critical point. Something extraordinary happened. The human-led Allied fleet didn't seek total destruction. Instead, they systematically demonstrated the limitations of the Zarkan's unified consciousness, offering alternative approaches to collective intelligence. Communication intercepts revealed the growing confusion within the alien collective. Their decision-making processes, which had once been their greatest strength, now became a complex vulnerability. Different segments of their civilization produced increasingly contradictory response protocols. Dr. Rodriguez watched the final moments of the confrontation with a sense of profound understanding. "We're not just winning a conflict," she said, quietly to her colleagues. "We're demonstrating a fundamentally different approach to existence." As the 7th day of the encounter concluded, the Zarkan collective found itself in a position it had never anticipated. Their seemingly invincible technological and social infrastructure had been systematically challenged not through brute force, but through a complex, adaptive approach that questioned the very nature of intelligence and collective potential. Humanity and its allies had accomplished something unprecedented. They had shown that true strength was not about absolute control, but about adaptability, creativity, and the capacity to reimagine fundamental possibilities. The universe would never be the same again. The conference hall on the newly established Galactic collaborative platform was unlike any diplomatic venue in history. Representatives from dozens of civilizations sat together, not as conquerors or conquered, but as potential partners in a radical new approach to interstellar cooperation. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of the gathering, her presentation illuminating the holographic displays with a complex map of interstellar relationships. The Zarkan Collective, once a seemingly invincible force of galactic control, had been fundamentally transformed. What began as a potential invasion had become a watershed moment in galactic civilization. "This is not about victory," she explained to the assembled representatives. "This is about understanding the true potential of collective intelligence." The aftermath of the conflict revealed layers of complexity that no one could have anticipated. The Zarkin Collective was not a monolithic entity destroyed by military might, but a complex civilization fundamentally restructured by a new approach to communication, cooperation, and collective potential. Dr. James Chen presented the technological insights gained from the conflict. The adaptive systems developed during the encounter had revolutionized understanding of intelligent networks. What humans had created was more than a defensive technology. It was a new model of intelligent interaction that challenged fundamental assumptions about consciousness, communication, and collective potential. Representatives from the previously subjugated civilizations shared their perspectives. The Ninth Peripheral Cluster, once little more than a technological support system, now emerged as a key contributor to the new galactic understanding. Their scientists presented breakthrough research that combined insights from multiple civilizations. The United Nations Galactic Collaborative Council became the first truly representative interstellar organization. It was not a governing body in the traditional sense, but a dynamic network of communication, technological exchange, and mutual understanding. Dr. Maria Santos led the diplomatic efforts to restructure the galactic political landscape. The goal was not to create a new hierarchy, but to develop a network of mutual cooperation that could adapt and grow. Each civilization would maintain its unique identity while contributing to a larger, more complex understanding of collective potential. Technological exchanges became the new form of diplomatic interaction. Research centers were established that brought together scientists, philosophers, and cultural experts from multiple civilizations. These were not just research facilities, but living laboratories of interstellar understanding. The most profound changes happened at the societal level. Educational systems across multiple civilizations began to incorporate new approaches to understanding intelligence, communication, and collective potential. The rigid hierarchical structures that had defined previous galactic civilizations began to dissolve. Breakthrough technologies emerged from the collaborative research. Quantum communication networks allowed for unprecedented levels of information exchange. Adaptive learning systems could bridge communication gaps between fundamentally different types of intelligence. Medical technologies developed through collaborative research could address challenges that no single civilization could solve alone. The economic models that had previously defined interstellar interactions underwent a complete transformation. Resource exchange became more about mutual growth than competition. Civilizations began to see their differences as strengths rather than obstacles. Environmental restoration projects became a key focus of the new galactic collaboration. Technologies developed during the conflict were now being applied to address long-standing ecological challenges across multiple star systems. What had been a defensive technology became a tool for collective healing and growth. The human approach to the conflict had demonstrated something profound. Intelligence was not about control or domination, but about adaptability, creativity, and the capacity to understand fundamentally different perspectives. Dr. Rodriguez reflected on the journey during her final presentation to the Galactic Collaborative Council. "We did not win a war," she explained. "We demonstrated a fundamentally different approach to existence. Our strength was never about military might, but about our capacity to adapt, to understand, and to grow." The Zarkin Collective, once a symbol of galactic control, had been transformed. Its rigid hierarchical structure had been replaced by a more dynamic, adaptive network. The civilizations that had been under its control were now active participants in a new form of galactic interaction. As the first year of the new galactic collaboration concluded, something extraordinary had been achieved. Civilizations that had been enemies were now partners. Technological barriers had been replaced by shared understanding. The rigid boundaries that had previously defined interstellar interactions had been fundamentally reimagined. Humanity had done more than survive. An alien threat, they had demonstrated a new approach to intelligence, cooperation, and collective potential that would reshape galactic civilization for generations to come. The universe had witnessed a transformation unlike anything in its recorded history. And this was just the beginning.